I do have a story from a trip to Colombia that was by myself where my phone got stolen. So I've kind of lived the worst fear, if you will. And yeah, it was like a typical, this was probably 4 years ago, like simple travel mistake. I had it in a pair of shorts and I was on a tour. It was just me and the guy with the tour. I was super excited to meet him. I wasn't paying attention and pickpocket came by on the subway and it was gone within 5 minutes.
Hello everyone, welcome to another Ismono podcast. Today I have a special guest with me from Booked It, the YouTube channel, and it's Gio. Hello Gio, thank you so much for joining me on this YouTube podcast. Can you maybe do a quick introduction, who you are and what you do?
Sure thing, Bo. Thanks for having me, man.
Sure.
Happy to be here, excited to chat. I am Gio. I run a YouTube channel, just Booked It. And my family and I travel around. My kids are in this traveling school. And my wife really wanted to take this opportunity to try this. And I thought, I'm going to need something that moves with me. So I decided to pick up a camera, start reviewing bags, talking about travel. And that's kind of how the channel was born.
Yeah, before we started the recording, we actually talked about it. And for all of you listeners, I was really surprised and amazed by the life that Gio and his family are doing. Please correct me if I misquote you. You move every 3 months from country to country because your kids switch schools and basically that way explore the world. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that is correct. It is within the same school, so it's called Boundless Life, and that makes it a little bit easier to make the moves. So basically,
so cool.
Their whole thing is to set you up with the kids have a school, they give you housing, and then a work hub, which I'm in right now. So you meet all these other traveling families, and the kids get connection and education.
So amazing. I mean, I already knew from the videos that I watched from you that you are a very seasoned traveler, but this gives everything such a different perspective because you're not only traveling, you're actually moving your homes from place to place. And this gives you so much credibility. And I have lots of questions actually that is kind of travel related. But before we start, your channel is not only about travel, but also about bags and stuff and EDC, right? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. A little background, as I was telling you before, I was in the fitness space. So I own CrossFit gyms, and that's where I kind of started filming. And I had a YouTube channel for that stuff too. And that's where I kind of fell in love with the art of, trying to develop an audience, trying to tell a story, trying to get people interested. So I did have a little background on that. And then when we decided to do this, what I really do enjoy is making like the bag or the place the star of the show instead of me. Even though I'm a YouTuber, I don't know if you can relate to this, I am fairly introverted. Most of the time it's just me talking to the camera, know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't relate. Speaking, I wouldn't, so to me it's, this fun way that I can speak to the camera. I can put myself out there, but I'm not giving a presentation in front of, 40 people.
It's so interesting because I would have never thought that you would consider yourself an introvert because the way you present yourself in front of the camera, especially as we talked previously before the start of recording, just seeing you making fun of yourself and being so kind of confident about, okay, I'm just going to dance a little bit in front of the camera or whatever it might be. I would have never thought that you would consider yourself an introvert because you feel very natural in front of the camera.
Thank you, Bo. That means a lot. And if you were to talk to my wife, she would say he's very much an introvert. I enjoy the art of and the storytelling piece on camera. So if it's an opportunity to make a joke or bring something togetger where there's like
it's really cool.
I don't know how I'm going to fit this together. That's kind of where I try to use that opportunity.
Oh, that's so cool. Before as I said, I have lots of travel questions, but you just mentioned CrossFit, and I just from the top of my head have a question that might segue right into it. Because you are doing CrossFit, so I assume you also work out a lot. But you're traveling a lot. And I always wonder if you're not utilizing a hotel's gym and maybe you are in a country where it's raining a lot, where you cannot go out for a run. Do you have like a workout routine that you kind of try to incorporate into your traveling, even though you might have limited space in a hotel room? Is there something that you do?
Yeah, great question. And, my YouTube brain always turns on right away. And I've done research on like travel fitness videos, and they never seem to really perform well. So I haven't dove into making one. But my philosophy on that is just trying to compound whatever I'm doing and stay consistent. So I'll use body weight stuff if I have to, which means, push-ups, if there's any opportunity for me to do a pull-up, air squats.
A pull-up? Where do you do it?
Well, if there's any opportunity. So you said if I can go outside to a playground or something like that.
But not in a hotel room. You're not hanging at the
no,
hotel.
I don't have any hacks for that. That would have been a good travel hack there. I'll just utilize, body weight stuff that I can do and really try to think about it like 4 to 5 good days of some type of sweat compounded over years is really what makes the difference. So just showing up and staying consistent is really the best way to do it. And if it's limited, then, it's a 10-minute sweat sesh that I'm getting it in. But ideally, I'm set up where I can take advantage of some outdoor fitness activity, hotel or gym where we're traveling.
I found it so difficult because 3 weeks ago, I was in Munich, and although the weather was good, I didn't have any running shoes or anything. And at home, I usually utilize a jump rope to kind of elevate my heart rate. But I brought my jump rope, but the hotel room was too small. I tried it once, and I kind of almost destroyed the lamp. So I thought like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And I tried jumping jacks in the hotel room, but I have a fitness tracker. And I was not able to get my heart rate up. And my fitness tracker said something like, okay, did you actually work out? Because you stayed somewhere around 100 BPMs. And when I'm doing jump reps, I'm usually at 140, 150 or something. So the tracker said like, okay, your score was okay, but there wasn't really calories you burned. So I was really struggling to actually do fitness in the hotel room. So I was kind of curious about this because you seem like a fit person, but inside the hotel room, I find it very difficult.
That's a tough one. Yeah, that is a tough one. Jump rope is a great thing to travel with. The other option just for body weight is a burpee, where you're kind of going down to the ground and then jumping back up. So even if it's with a push-up, like...
Of course, I should have done burpees. Yeah, now that you say it, that would have been much better than just jumping jacks. That's true.
100 burpees for time is just a great little hack to say.
Wow, hundreds.
I'm going to get it in today. And maybe it's 50. Maybe it's 50. It doesn't need to... Whatever number it is.
Without pauses? You can do 50 burpees?
No, pause for sure.
Okay.
It's basically like look at the time, and you can do it time-based. So as many I can do in 10 minutes. I like to have a number to shoot for. So then it's like, all right, I'm going to do 100. Maybe it's 10. Take a few breaths. 10. Take a few breaths. And then it's that usually takes me this long. So then you kind of have a little bit of goal.
Okay, that's good advice.
Yeah, that'll get your heart rate pumping for sure.
That's good advice. All right, good. Now that we are at the topic of traveling, okay, let me just see in what order do I go. Let's go from traveling things and then end up with bags. So how do you deal, especially you that you also are moving, how do you deal with important documents and means of payment when you're traveling? Because I know there are so many different philosophies about this. Some like it printed out, some like it digital, some like it have it only in the cloud and different currencies, or some others just credit cards. So what's your attack plan with this kind of stuff? Especially because you're moving. You're not just traveling, you're moving at least every quarter of the
That's
year.
a great way to lead it off. We have stuff backed up digitally because it's always been helpful to access that. We try to make it as secure as possible. And then we travel with a passport holder as a family of 4. And I can link it. I'm pretty sure it's still on Amazon. It's not a name brand or anything. It's just kind of this leatherish one, but it has the ability to fit all 4 of our passports and then some important
all
documents.
4 in one place?
All 4 in one place. It has a little iPad or AirTag tracker. And, it's not the slimmest by any means. It's, might not be the absolute most durable. It's lasted for years for us, but we like to keep a few copies of papers in there in case something happens. You want to hand them the copies first, if it's like law enforcement or something like that. And then as we're traveling, that's like always our kind of golden thing that my wife and I know where it is. It's in the outside of the bag, or you have the passports, I have the passports, trying to teach the kids, always put them back in when we're done. So, we will house a few digital documents, and then we have kind of our, master travel passport holder that we keep important stuff in.
Oh, okay. And do you kind of, when we stay with passport and identification, I don't know what passport you have, but I have German passport. In Germany, we also have an ID card. So I always have somewhat of redundancy because I have the ID card and the passport. Do you also do you have some redundancy and backups in terms of like physical?
We do. For the US, we have US passports, and then we'll have our license. So 2 forms of identification.
The driver's license is
we'll
a valid identification, means of identification in US?
It is in the US.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Most of the time, it's passports for us that we will just have and use because we're so used to kind of moving internationally. But within the US, that's a valid form of identification.
Oh, I didn't know that, because in Germany, the driver's license is not a valid means of identification, which is basically why in Germany everyone tries to be walletless, but we always have 2 cards at least with us, identification and the driver's license.
Interesting.
So we cannot go walletless. That is, I mean, you could, but by law, you need to have at least your identification card with you all of the time. So it's kind of annoying.
That's challenging.
Yeah. And how about payment? Do you travel with cash, or do you usually rely on credit cards wherever you travel?
Ideally for us, it's credit cards, and that's just going to change country to country. That's always kind of our first go-to. The points and miles allow us to travel like as US based and, Europe travel to transfer Chase points. And that's kind of like our go-to card, Chase and Capital One. But there'll always be redundancy in cash. So when we travel, there's maybe a few $100s if I'm coming from the US in there. And if I'm within Europe like we are now, then there's a few €100. And that's also in our passport kind of daily carry. So it's like, I know I have that if we need it.
I find it so difficult. Asia is so obnoxious in terms of when it comes down to cash. So I always try to have somewhat of a game plan when it comes down to payment. Especially, I always want to go to Asia. I take my credit card, pull out some cash from the ATM, but I know that is just too big of bills. So the first thing that I do is go to a 7-Eleven, buy, 2 waters or something, and then ask the cashier to give me the return as small as possible whenever I can. So that's why I'm always kind of curious about the attack plan when it comes down to cash, and then I always have 2 wallets, one with all the big bills and one extra where all the small bills are when I take a cab or something, so I can pay with those smaller bills. Because especially in Indonesia, it's always like, the bill is too big. No, I have any change. And then you sit there at your destination and the driver doesn't want to give you change back. And then you have to pay like for a $10 bill with a 50 or something. So it's always annoying.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Bo, those are two great travel hacks. And if you haven't been to that side of the world, like the dual wallet thing is very important.
Yeah.
Even when I do it where if I'm going out, maybe then I just take the small bills, but I know where the big bills are.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love the convenience store hack too, because if you're on, my kids want a magnet or we want to get street food, you can't pay with a big bill.
Yeah.
So to have that stuff lined up is always nice.
Yeah, by the way, for all of the listeners, check out the Japan 7-Eleven video from Gio. That was also so fun. I like that so much. I didn't know that that system that you kind of showed in the video, that you can send bags at 7-Eleven. I've never seen that in Indonesia or in Thailand. I really wonder if that's just a Japan thing.
I wonder. A few thoughts on that. One, we're super privileged to be able to live in the country for 3 months. So you do kind of learn some of these things where I think for most people in Japan, they'd be like, yeah, of course you can ship your bag within Japan, no problem. And it was a really cool thing to learn about. And Japan is pretty special when you're comparing it to other places in Asia. They have a lot of things like dialed in as far as the way things work.
But 7-Eleven is like the wonderland. I love 7-Eleven so much. It's so good.
Yeah, I agree.
I really, every time I come back to Germany, I kind of wish there was a 7-Eleven around. I mean, we have stores, obviously, that kind of resemble 7-Eleven, but it's just a different vibe going inside the 7-Eleven. It's so different.
I mean, from US to Japan is, I think Germany might be similar, but in the US, it's just quick, convenient, candy and chips. That's all.
Or a big gulp or something, but not a nori or a really cool dinner, basically, that you can get there at the 7-Eleven. It's just a totally different vibe.
Agreed.
And speaking of the 7-Eleven video, I'm not 100% sure if in that video you also mentioned washing. Because I always struggle with this when traveling. People in our niche always say, okay, you just travel with one bag and then you just wash in the hotel room. And I tried that. I failed somewhat miserably because I always struggle. To wash the sink is too small. And then I always kind of struggle where to hang it. And I know there's also the possibility to just go around the corner and give them to a washer or a dry cleaner. But let's imagine you cannot do that. Do you have any hacks for washing in a hotel room?
Yeah. So the laundry hack, first of all, for me, if you're in Asia, I highly recommend trying to find something because they will pick it up for almost nothing.
Yeah.
And then take it away. But if you're in Europe, that's going to cost a fair amount. If we're doing this type of 3-month travel, I'm not worried about it as much. If we are going away on a trip, my go-to has been a little Sea to Summit dry bag. So I take a dry bag with me. I have laundry sheets. And it is still, to be honest, but like a little time consuming. And if you're really shooting for the one bag travel and you want to wash stuff, like you do have to commit to soaping it, rinsing it, soaping it, commit. It's like a 30-minute thing to kind of get the clothes clean, get them all hung up. It's definitely not as easy as just throwing them in the washer. But if you are really packing minimally, it's a small, I think it's, maybe a 15-liter bag or something, 12-liter. And then I'll travel with tiny little soap sheets. So I'll throw a few T-shirts in there, underwear and socks. You kind of rinse it up. It's within the dry bag it's contained. And then you do one wash, rinse cycle in there. And then as far as hanging them up, you can try to find some hangers. I've done the lay flat, or some people have the burrito method where you lay it on the towel and then roll it up in the towel.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Moisture for a little bit. You'd want to unroll it and then hang it so it's not completely wrinkled. But having the dry bag is really helpful. It has come in handy for us on a few different occasions where the kids, wanted something, or my wife and I for the next day.
Yeah. I like the honesty and the clear words, because sometimes when I listen to traveling videos, it's just like, yeah, just washing in the sink and then dry it up. Next day it's dry. And I tried it. As I said, I failed. I tried it in this tiny little sink, and then and I was standing there like, okay, where the hell am I supposed to hang this in this 1 square meter bathroom? And then I felt like, okay, let's dry it outside of the bathroom. And then obviously the carpet where I was trying to hang it was completely wet. And I said like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. So,
oh man, that's great.
yeah, it's good that you just said that it's not as romantic as it sometimes is described, because 30 minutes doesn't sound that easy. And it's great to hear. This burrito technique, that sounds really good. I should have, now that I know it sounds a little bit, okay, I can at least get most of the water out and then hang it next to the bed or whatever. So that could be a solution.
Try that one. Have you ever, I'm working on a video right now about merino wool shirt, travel t-shirt.
I have only, this is cotton, but most of my shirts are, 90% of my shirts are merino wool.
Nice. Awesome.
Highly
what is your go-to brand? Do you have one?
I have one from Outlier. Those are really good. Western Rice, although Western Rice, they closed shop, if I'm not completely mistaken, last year, which is a shame. Seagull is also good. I heard lots of good things about Unbound Merino, but I've not tested them myself. But which I really, really like is, it's not Merino, but it's a Graphene. The company is called Graphene X, and it's actually a technical fabric where they woven in, as the name implies, graphene thread, and it has basically the same properties as merino wool, and I like that a lot.
I'll have to research that.
Yeah, because the seams, what I do like, because of the properties of the fabric, they actually don't stitch the pieces together, but kind of like on black amber bags, they kind of weld them together. So you don't have any scratchy parts on the shirt. It's really cool shirt. I like it a lot. Also an alternative, I reviewed them a couple of months ago, Wolf and Goat. They make bamboo shirts made in Italy.
Wow.
Yeah, really.
Okay, I'm going to have to look at these.
Very pricey, but a cool, very cool alternative to merino wool. They have I wouldn't call it smell or odor, but it's bamboo. So you actually notice, okay, this is not coming from a sheep, but this is basically a tree.
Yeah, interesting.
You kind of smell it. It has a distinct odor to it, or fragrance. So it's completely different. The first time I had it in my closet, I was kind of wondering, what is this, what I'm smelling? And then I noticed, okay, it's a bamboo shirt. But the same thing holds true with merino wool. When you have merino wool, if you kind of, it has a different fragrance than obviously cotton, but the properties are actually really good. So not having to worry about that the shirt starts smelling after, I would say, 3 or 4 days is really good. So
yeah, I agree. The merino has been good to travel with, but I like those alternatives too. I'm going to check them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially I really like the graphene stuff, because it kind of feels like, those compression shirts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it feels kind of like that without this compression kind of feeling.
Okay.
So that's what the haptics are like of the shirt, of the fabric of Graphene X. So it's really cool. And also, if you're prone to kind of itching when it comes down to garments, the Graphene X doesn't scratch at all. The merino wool can, depending on the quality of the merino wool, can feel itchy sometimes.
Agreed.
That's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But bamboo and technical fabrics, really cool. Not sure
Nice.
why not so many people have talked about it yet. I've seen so many people kind of talking about merino wool, but not about those technical fabrics. Not sure why that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Me either.
Yeah. Speaking of clothing and continuing with washing and hacks, any travel hacks that you kind of like to share that you kind of utilize whenever you're traveling, be it a hack specifically in a hotel room or an item that you always bring?
A random item that we love to travel with as a family is a little white noise machine, sound machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm confused. Why?
It really helps us for sleeping.
Okay.
So we can mask out some of the other noise. So we're even we're in Montenegro right now, and we were in Bosnia the other weekend. We drove there. We were in Albania the weekend before. So we're constantly kind of taking little day trips in our new locations. Yeah. New Airbnb, new hotel. We're on a busy street. Maybe the kids are having trouble sleeping. So this just is a tiny little thing, and it helps us mask out the noise. It's just a nice sound, but instead of kind of sleeping in a new place, what's that creak? What's that sound? That's been just a little hack that works well for us.
But what's the advantage over just using earplugs?
The earplugs could work. Yeah, that could be totally fine. Just as a family of 4, it's helpful to say, click the button and then everybody goes to bed instead of make sure you got your earplugs or your earbuds. And sometimes with these Airbnbs, maybe it's a bigger bedroom we're all in, or a living room. I don't know, all types of situations when you're traveling. So just kind of a random thing that we're always like, make sure you have the white noise machine that we're traveling and packing with.
And I heard about white noise, brown noise and stuff like that. I've never tried it myself, but isn't it kind of like a dropping faucet or something? Isn't it annoying in a way?
Yeah. It's definitely a concept that you will not enjoy the first time, probably. I think if you put it on, it's just going to feel like very odd when you first have it. I think it's something almost like a weighted blanket or your favorite pillow that kind of has grown on us. Where the biggest thing I can relate to is if I'm taking a trip in the US and I'm going to, one spot in Europe and staying at the Hilton, like, okay, maybe you don't need it. It's like a nice hotel chain. You're not really concerned about anything. But the way we travel, as we were just talking about Japan and Asia, we spend time in Thailand and Vietnam. It just helps us because we can be in places that might not feel as comfortable. So that's kind of like our little, all right, there's some, some barking dogs outside or the neighbor's a little bit noisy. Well, if you have this, it just kind of drowns some of that out. And lets us relax a little bit. So that's kind of a random sleep hack. We don't travel with earplugs, but we do have eye masks in case we need those. Sleep is, super important when you're traveling, even in transit. If you can throw the eye mask on the plane or a long car ride, that helps with the kids. And then the other thing we always make sure we're prepared with is some type of power source. So, a portable, 10,000 milliamps or a 5,000 milliamp MagSafe that we're always attaching. As much as I hate to admit it and like to kind of push tech off to the side a little bit, it's important. It's important, right? Your phone, your map, all that type of stuff and getting around. So we always make sure we have that going for us. But those are the two I think that are top of mind, aside from clothing and making sure you can have things like we're just talking about merino that you can wear multiple times, or I have some really high quality pants and shorts from 686 that are not a company that I'm affiliated with at all. And I feel like they travel really well, they pack really well, they wash really well, and they were fairly pricey. I think it was $80, 90 USD for a pair of pants.
That doesn't sound that much. I mean, a pair of Levi's is similarly praised.
True. So, I feel like if you find a few good quality brands, like you were saying, then it's like, you kind of stack those, and then in the end, like nobody's looking at what you're wearing. If you're comfortable and you feel good, like a few different outfits for your trip, and you should be set.
I have actually two questions that I can easily segue off. They just come to mind. It's so fun because every time you say something, I have, although I have a couple of questions here, I have new questions. So it's about sleep and your phone. So the first one is, what's your go-to method dealing with jet lag, especially in going east? I feel like that is the most difficult, going from USA to Germany or from Germany to Asia. I feel like that for me is the hardest part to get to deal with. If I go west, I feel like it's not that difficult for me. So what's your hack in terms of jet lag? Because I feel like you basically every month have to deal with jet lag at least once.
Yeah, we're moving a bunch. There's an app that we've tried. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. I can shoot it to you after, but you can put in your destinations and it'll give you kind of a plan.
I heard about that. Yeah, I heard about that.
And that does help. We've tried that on bigger trips. So if we're going to, like you said, Europe to Thailand or something like that, that's usually the hard one. And basically what it's trying to do is give you the most optimized sleep. That's number one. I have trouble sleeping on the plane. It's not as easy to just get in. And if you're there at 10 a.m. and you can't check in till 2, like, what do you do? The two other biggest variations that you're playing with are hydration and sunlight. So if you can try to optimize for those, it is really important. I think hydration when you're traveling is something that's very underutilized might be the wrong word, but something that's kind of a sleeper. You're on the plane, you're not thinking about it, you're dehydrated anyway, you get off the plane, you're waiting in security, then you ride into a cab. Do you have water with you? Is very important to stay like almost overly hydrated. I come from the fitness background also, like we talked about, so I'm into like a little bit of stretching. If you can do that outside, then that's huge. So one of the recent trips, we were all like really bogged down when we got into Bangkok, and it was early. We couldn't check into the hotel room yet. So you have to try to fight through that first day. And that was hydrating a bunch, getting out in the sunlight, and stretching a little bit outside. All we wanted to do was go to bed. It was 10 or 11 a.m. But we did that. We felt better. We got something to eat. And then around 5 or 6, we went to sleep. As you've traveled a little bit before, like you have to try to get on the schedule of the place where you are. Yeah. Don't succumb to like, I'm so tired. They let me check in early and then you fall asleep during the day. You just try to like get on that new schedule as fast as possible.
But it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, that your attack plan basically is because you are not able to, you stay awake the whole flight. And then you force yourself to stay awake as long, depending on when you land, to stay awake as long as possible and then go to bed at your destination's 10 p.m. or something. At least that sounds like it. Is that correct?
Yeah, 10 p.m. might be late. On our first day there, we might go to bed at, 6 or 7 p.m.
But at
I would
night,
try to sleep at night. Yeah, I would try to sleep on the plane. It's just usually not very restful for me. I'm not like by any means trying to stay up if it's nighttime. And I've messed with a little bit of like prep before. Like sometimes people are, you want to try to adjust to the schedule before. But, as life happens. Like I can't decide to sleep today because I'm traveling in 2 days to try to adjust. So,
of course.
Yeah. Get as much sleep as you can, in transit if that is possible and you're good at sleeping. But then when you get there, it's just... stretch, hydrate, sunlight, and try to get on the schedule.
Speaking of hydration, I had 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago, this really long flight to Chiang Mai, which was a 21-hour journey. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure, that I overhydrated. And I was wondering, so I just want to hear your thoughts about this. So I actually drank bunch of water. And I believe that I kind of flushed out all of my electrolytes during that flight. And I had actually a headache when I arrived, which I believe also is partially due to the fact that I didn't have any fresh air, only the processed air in all of the airports and the flight. So my assumption was that the air wasn't good, but more importantly, I should have drank some electrolytes. Would you think, or would you say that is a valid hypothesis that I potentially drank too much water and not kind of hydrated my body the correct way? Would you say electrolytes would be a good idea to kind of incorporate as well in the hydration plan whilst flying?
Yeah, electrolytes would be great. I think you're onto something with like probably the air quality and the being stuffy was what might have given you the headache. But if I'm coming from home where I know kind of where to get access to the electrolyte little single serving packets, I'll usually have 5 or 6 that I'm traveling with. I always feel better when it's just, that gives me like a little bit of extra juice. Try to get ones that are a little bit lower in sugar. But yeah, that's a great travel hack, especially when it's, for those long haul flights. Chiang Mai is beautiful though. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
But the flight, that's why I'm flying to Bangkok now, because I just can't bear the 21-hour journey. It was just too long.
That's because it's still a ways to Bangkok, right? I mean, you're 16, 15 hours?
Yeah. So back then I flew Hamburg to Doha, Doha to Bangkok, Bangkok to Chiang Mai. So although the flight from Bangkok to Chiang Mai wasn't that long, I still had to wait 3 hours in the airport, and then 2 hours, I believe it was, from Bangkok to Chiang Mai. And I was completely destroyed when I arrived. So that's the reason why I'm thinking now I booked the flight from Hamburg to Frankfurt to Bangkok, which is an 11-hour flight, which is still a lot, but still it's just one flight. And I hope that will be a little bit better. And I'm flying in the rain season, so I hope the flight isn't that full, but let's see.
Sure. Yeah. That's another great travel idea. We've traveled in off season too. And if you have that seat open next to you, it's such a big deal.
Yeah. I really hope so. That's what I'm kind of banking on. But let's see. So my next question is that I also wanted to ask your phone, especially considering you have this. You're not traveling. I mean, it's basically you're moving your life from one place to another, and your phone being a very important hub, especially for banking, for two-factor authentication, for your emails and stuff like that. So your phones is, even just at home, is one of the most important parts nowadays, at least from my personal security-based perspective. I do a lot with the phone. And I also am always worried when I'm traveling, what happens when the phone breaks? And I assume that with you are not traveling, you're moving your life. You probably are much more inclined to feel kind of worried about your phone, right? Do you carry a second phone with you where all of the bank apps are also installed if your main phone breaks? Or, I mean, you have your wife with you, probably she has that on her phone, but do you worry about stuff like that, or do you prepare for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a good call. And I do think there is a different value or worry meter when you are traveling with a significant other. And I think the phone is also a very, very powerful thing, but I try to separate myself from it in the morning, which we can get onto that in a minute. I do have a story from a trip to Colombia that was by myself where my phone got stolen. So I've kind of lived the worst fear, if you will. And it was like a typical, this was probably 4 years ago, like simple travel mistake. I had it in a pair of shorts, and I was on a tour. It was just me and the guy with the tour. I was super excited to meet him. I wasn't paying attention, and pickpocket came by on the subway, and it was gone within 5 minutes. It was fast. It was basically just like the professionals draw it up. I was in the middle of an interaction that I was completely focused on. So I was not focused on my gear and where things were. I had my pack on me, like my front carry waist
Sling
pack,
back, yeah.
but my phone had been slid in my pocket because I was on it, right? Looking for the guide. And then boom, there he was, like, oh man, so nice to meet you. Phone in the pocket. And then it was, oh my gosh, the phone's gone.
Oh, wow.
So I'm in Colombia, no way to get in touch with my wife. I had a guide, and he helped me. He basically brought me to a store. The phone was fairly cheap and inexpensive to get. So I was able to get connected again. And then I just called my provider, which I think was T-Mobile. And they kind of shut the service off from that. I password protected all my other stuff. And then I was able to kind of re-engage with all of the apps. My phone was obviously passworded, and I tried to track it, but like my guide said, they had already turned it off, shut it down, and like probably sold it for parts within, a few hours.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, like obviously it was a terrible situation. But I was able to kind of figure out my way out of it and recover with the technology of, getting a phone that is fairly inexpensive and then trying to connect to your carrier and your phone got stolen. Okay, we'll shut off that account, we'll shut off that phone. And then as long as everything else is fairly password protected, they can't do much.
Oh, wow. But was that kind of incident that kind of changed your mindset either on a completely different perspective where you say like, oh, okay, I've gone through the worst. I know what to do next, or you're leaning the other way. Okay, now I know what happens when worst comes to worst, and now I always carry 2 iPhones or something
right.
like that.
Yeah.
Where are you leaning now after that?
Not carrying 2 phones. More so leaning to that was a mistake in a way of like, all right, you have to be your stuff has to be secured. More on that side of it as like. If I'm in a place, especially like Colombia, then the phone's got to be like in the front carry, not off to the side. And these guys are professionals. They're watching you. Even somebody like me who travels a ton, it was just, like I said, it was that interaction where like my mind was not on my stuff and I was like meeting a new person. And I'm sure they just watched that happen at this, subway train station every day, and it was that brief lapse, which made me just be like, all right, now stuff like goes in the front, nothing's in my pockets. If I'm on the front carry. So more on that side, which I'm a little bit more diligent with, and thinking about now, especially when I'm in a busy place or having an interaction with a new person.
That's a good segue, actually. Let's talk about bags. So it sounds like you are also a sling bag kind of person. What's your current sling bag EDC situation?
I have 2 that I'm actually testing right now. One is a very simple sling from Uniqlo. That's kind of like their basic bag that is modeled off the Porter bag, which is like a really expensive bag in Japan. Which I got also. So I'm kind of like... You
also have the backpack, right? The Uniqlo backpack, right?
I also have the Uniqlo backpack. Yeah, I got a bunch of the stuff from there. And what I love about that is that, you're getting bags for like under 30 to 40 USD. And they're fairly durable. And for me, at least at this point with our traveling, like the bag is going to get kind of beat up, slashed around a little bit. The Porter bag from Japan runs about $400 and looks really nice. It's got that high-vis orange inside, like amazing zippers, hand-stitched. You do feel great when you're wearing it and you're bringing it around, but I got it more so almost like your story you were telling me with the Go Ruck bag. Like, let's test it. And then you made a video out of it. I splurged on it just to kind of explore it and make the video out of it, but it probably wouldn't be something I would do for travel. It was a great EDC bag though, and has some awesome capabilities that I would dive into. So with all that being said, like I try to really find bags that are a little bit more budget friendly to review and make the most use out of, because it can kind of be what I guess, how you're using the bag, when really some of those expensive bags, as you know, some of it is a little bit of marketing, a little bit of branding, and sometimes you end up being a little disappointed when it's like $300 for a bag.
It's really, I do see it a lot in this niche. It's especially when you talk to an air quotes mainstream people who are not familiar with this bag enthusiast world. It's still this question, you paid how much for that bag? And it's hard to justify, especially when you see either fashion bags that you can get, I don't know, from Zara, Nike, or whatever it might be. And then you have brands like Uniqlo that are somewhat higher than maybe those fashion kind of bags, but still good quality. And then you have brands now that are coming into the space. TomTalk, for example, really budget friendly. And it's getting harder and harder to kind of justify. I understand why brands like, I don't know, Black Amber, Evergoods, they have to make the prices the way they are. I understand that, but I do also see that the vast majority of consumers don't really see the justification to pay that much for a bag, especially considering those brands. Like you just mentioned, Uniqlo is a great option. Unfortunately, there are not that many Uniqlo brand shops here in Germany that I'm aware of. But in Asia, Muji, Uniqlo, you see them basically everywhere. And I'm amazed by the quality that they are offering for the prices.
Agreed.
It's really good. So I understand the hype. So with the Uniqlo sling bag, what's your kind of loadout? I assume you have maybe a 2-liter-ish sling bag or something, or is it smaller?
Yeah. So it depends. If I'm coming down and doing a little bit of work, it might be. I think their other one is a little larger for a laptop. It might be more like that.
So a messenger style,
10 or 12. Yeah. So that one I enjoy because I can easily slip the laptop in, as we talked about earlier, power sources. So I'll bring a 10,000 milliamp charger. I'll bring a few cables, and then a few things to work with, whether it's some analog stuff with pen and notepad. If I'm going sling bag, like truly like 2-liter sling, I love the TomTalk slings, as you mentioned earlier. I have 2 of those that I kind of have tested and traveled. The smaller one is what I love for EDC, which is like you can fit keys, a phone, MagSafe in there, and maybe a few, I did a video on a little Muji travel pouch. I can slide in there with basically, Band-Aids, multi-tool, a little med kit pack out, like something small. I'm going on a hike, I'm with the kids. That's kind of my go-to, hey, I'll leave the house, I'll throw on the TomTalk. For the work is more the Uniqlo sling, which is like, I think that 10 to 12 liter fit the laptop and some more things for me to get things done.
So you always wear that small sling bag, or do you sometimes, even though you have that incident, do you utilize your pants pockets, or do you now say, okay, no, not going to put anything in those pockets, everything is here in front, or do you sometimes go bagless?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes I walk out with the sling and I'm like, man, this is just like, it's overkill. You know what I mean? Like all I need is a phone. And I do think it also depends in the area and the part of the world where you are. In complete honesty, when we lived in Japan for 3 months, I was way more relaxed. It felt very safe there. We were outside of Tokyo. We were in a small town. There were not many tourists there. So it was like one of those places where you just feel safe, like in Japan. And like any big city, anything can happen. But where my phone got taken is Medellin, Colombia. So it's just a different vibe there. So if I'm in a place like even now when we travel to Paris, or then I'm always just going to sling it because it's like heavy touristed. And, I'm going to get distracted, whether it's with the kids or somebody else we're meeting. And that's where I do enjoy the TomTalk, like 2-liter. It's just so small. You know what I mean? If it's your phone, you don't have to think about it. And if it's a bigger trip, like we're out all day, then it's, maybe even a packable backpack from Matador that you can front carry.
Makes sense.
Right, bring off to the side. So something like that if we're out for like the full day exploring.
But I do feel like when you have a backpack in front of you, you're kind of asking for it because you do look like the tourist, and it's like,
It's
okay,
so bad. It's so bad. I know.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the best solution because it's kind of like having a big sign. Okay, I'm a tourist. I have no
I
idea
have
what I'm
something
doing
in here. I don't want you to think.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of try not to do it. Or to be fair, I've never done it just for that reason.
Yes. No, I'm with you on that. Uh-huh.
So, last question before I don't want to steal too much of your time. What is your favorite bag at the moment that you, be it sling bag, backpack, maybe a check-in bag? Is there anything that comes to mind that you're pretty excited about?
Yeah, there's two that I want to like pit against each other, and this is in the higher range of bags, but the Air Travel Pack they just came out with. I do enjoy it, and then the Matador Globe Rider 35, which has been out for a while, but I just feel like as a quality backpack for somebody who travels, we were talking about hype and things like that. These are going to be expensive bags, $250 or above, I believe. But if you're going on a few trips a year, this is like a 10-year bag, and I do feel like the zippers are smooth. The organization, of course, some people want a different water bottle pocket holder or another slot there for a card, but overall, it's going to perform and function like very well for a bag. For one bag travel, which is something that I enjoy a ton, and we will talk about this as a family when we go on little trips. It's like, oh, it was so nice. We just had our book bags, even if it was a small flight. The minute you get a carry-on or something else involved, to me, is just like, well, now there's a whole other thing to remember, You get off the plane, like, where are the passports? Got my book bag done? Or where are the passports? Where's the bag? Where's, the 3 carry-on kids have? All that type of stuff. So short answer is those two I feel like are just high quality bags that can really get the job done for multiple years.
Yeah, my review of the Air Travel Pack will come out this Saturday, actually.
Oh, nice! I'll check it out.
It's a cool bag, and I totally agree with everything that you said. I just want to add to what you've said in terms of pricing, just for listeners, because I feel like this is something that we kind of need to remind ourselves of multiple times, because I see that argument, oh, that's such an expensive bag, so many times, whilst I like sneakers, for example. A normal pair of Nike Air Force One, if you buy them here, at least in Germany in the store, is 110 euros, if I'm not completely mistaken. And I just know for a fact that many people that I know with sneakers would replace those sneakers after maybe 1, max 2 years. A bag like the Air, you're not going to replace that anytime soon. And as soon as you kind of factor that in and you kind of think about, okay, this is a bag, I buy it once, it will hold up at least 3, 4, 5, probably much longer. And then if you factor that in terms of, okay, I'm using this bag every day for work, for example, maybe not a travel bag, but any other 20-liter-ish bags with a price tag of 150 to 200 euros. And you divide that by the days, your sneakers suddenly seem so much more expensive than the bag that you are kind of argumenting against. Oh, I don't want to pay that much. So it's something that people kind of tend to forget sometimes.
I love that. I love that. I totally agree. I think it's, what you kind of value, and you and I are more in the bag space and get excited about new and different pockets and stitching and all the materials. But overall, it is, an investment that should last a little while.
The same thing with what you mentioned previously, where you kind of were like, oh, these are some expensive pairs of pants. I would say no, they're not. They're probably more maybe not more durable, but I feel like when people are very easy to say, okay, I'm going to buy a pair of Levi's. Oh, these are nice again. 1 month later, buy another one. It's hard to kind of argument against that because, as you said, or as you kind of felt, I need to justify the price of these kind of technical pants. I would argue it's not that big of a deal because with so many other things, people are very carelessly spending and wouldn't kind of, how you say, close an eye or kind of flunk an eye.
Bat an eye.
Bat an eye. That's what I wanted to say. When they buy those things, and if you kind of, even if you just buy from, I don't know, H&M, Zalando or Zara, even there a pair of pants is like $40, I would say. But they buy 2 of them. That's basically the price of the pants that you just mentioned, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I see that so many times in the comment section, and I just wanted to add on that. It's so funny that people are discussing about that.
I know. I want to work on a video. It's just in my head now, but and a couple people have done this in our space. But the buy once, cry once kind of philosophy. So it's like you buy it once, and then you're sad or you're crying because it's very expensive.
Exactly.
But then this is going to be something that, at least for me, I want to show that the value is there. And maybe for other people. And as you know, man, if you're on a 15-hour flight with some high quality over-ear headphones, a comfortable pair of pants and a nice travel bag that you can easily access under the plane and, get out some type of charging port or cable that you need, like that's just ease for me and makes travel a little bit better.
Yeah. And also I need to kind of defend some of the brands as well, because I get when people say, oh, that bag is so expensive or that item is so expensive. I don't know, maybe a pen, a really high quality pen or a watch or whatever. And they say like, oh, okay, this is so expensive. I can get a G-Shock for cheaper, or I can get a TomTok bag for cheaper. And I agree, it's a high price. And yes, you can get something similar cheaper, but I also kind of we need to acknowledge that is a small brand. They don't have the capacity to order high quantities, which obviously the more you order, the cheaper something gets. Casio makes thousands of a watch, while I don't know, this niche brand just makes 20. So yes, it's more expensive, but you kind of need to understand the brand also a little bit. You don't have to buy it, but I think to villainize a brand for making something the price it is sometimes a little bit mean might be the wrong word, but unfair in a way.
A perfect word for it. Unfair. I agree. There's a lot of things that we just have no idea when it comes to design and research and manufacturing, and the ability to put something there in front of you, a physical thing, comes with a long line of people that it has to go through. So
and history.
Yeah.
I mean, a Casio watch, obviously they can make, I mean, those are beautiful. I bought my wife one, these tiny golden digital watches. I bought her a small one with this gold, not real gold, but gold looking bracelet for $30 or something. So really cheap. And then, and then you see like, I don't know, a Seiko mechanical watch is €100 or whatever. And then you wonder, well, why is that so cheap, the Casio one? Yeah, because they are like, I don't know how many years they exist. At least 50, 60, 70 years. They have so much, and everyone buys them. They probably make them at least 10,000 times, those $30. So it's easy to make them cheap, right? But we consumers sometimes forget that, and it's a shame, actually. Especially on the internet.
Yes.
All right. I don't want to keep steal your time too much. Thank you so much for taking the time. It was a pleasure and an honor to talk to you. And everyone, please check out Gio's channel, because I think it's an amazing channel. And truth to be told, I told you this before, but I'm not saying it publicly. You are funny. You're really funny in your videos.
I appreciate that.
Very entertaining, and I like that. So where can people find you?
Yeah, YouTube's my spot. Just booked it is the channel. So if you head over there, subscribe, drop a comment. I try to respond to almost everybody. It would mean a ton as I try to grow the channel and grow the business. So thank you for any and all the support.
Yeah, definitely check out his channel, especially considering he's, I would say, one of the few traveling channels who actually not want but need to travel on a very regular basis. So I would say there's lots of credibility to that. So everyone, check out this channel, and thank you all for watching. We see you in the next video.
Thanks, Bo.